with an interesting topic I wanted to share with you. I was doing some research to work on some broadcasts of history, ancient history for our mother. She's a history buff and she loves to hear about history. And so she had a special request to go back to the people of the Central Asian steppes. So I was doing so basically a people called the Cimmerians or the Cimmerians, depending on how you pronounce that C. And so I was doing some research, and guess what I found out?
What?
I found out that Conan the Barbarian is Conan the Cimmerian.
Really?
So he was originally from these Eastern Asian steppes when he came down and did his adventuring. So did you know that? I didn't know that.
I did not know that. Now, I need you for some clarification for the viewers and myself. What are you referring to when you say steps?
So between the Black Sea and the Caspian Sea in Central Asia, there are these rolling hills. So steppes are kind of like the land of rolling hills, and they're great for they're grasslands, so they're great for horses. So they've been a place where a lot of horse people have come throughout the centuries. And so very famously, so the Cimmerians were, or the Cimmerians, depending on how you pronounce that. And that's part of our segment here is to go into that pronunciation. But these people were um, basically horse lords on the borders of the Iranian civilization to the south and kind of like the Turkish civilization to the south and the west, and then Europe to the west. So they were trouble, and they were basically hard hitting. Well, you saw Conan what he's like.
Right.
He's not particularly a great negotiator. You don't come to Conan and with your business plan and your leisure suits and your you know while he comes with his loincloth and Mr. Olympia body and a sword.
Right.
Did I mention the sword?
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
So the big controversy here now is it Conan the Cimmerian or is it Conan the Cimmerian? How do you pronounce those? So it's Cimmerian is the word, but there's a little bit of a war going on with, most English people wanting to say Conan the Cimmerian. You know how you say like the Boston Celtics?
Right.
So most people want to do that, except that the only issue is the actual consonant being used from history is is the K. And so while it's the Boston Celtics, um, Conan and his people were actually Confederates with the ancient Celts. So they're only pronounced with the soft C in Boston, but when they're over in Europe, they're pronounced with the K. So it looks like it's, and the other thing too is, Conan, Conan's name is Conan. His name is not Sonan.
Right.
So is it Sonan the Cimmerian or is it Conan the Cimmerian? Or is it Conan the Cimmerian and you mix them?
Things that make you go, what does Google dictionary say or pronunciation say?
Well, it's interesting that you ask that because I went out there to sort of find out what the quote unquote official pronunciation was. And doggone it, if Google didn't wimp out and said it depends upon the region that you're in. So some regions say Cimmerians and other regions say Cimmerians.
So
So
I guess it's a tomato thing, huh?
it definitely is. Now, here's the interesting thing. It looks like Cimmerians. The other thing too is that region in Central Asia between the Don and the Dniester rivers is today it's known as the Crimea.
And
So
not the Crimea?
exactly. So we've got a lot of evidence pointing in multiple ways. And another interesting thing too is, Conan had a buddy. Conan is not the only Cimmerian or Cimmerian from our sort of fantasy past. Do you remember the original Highlander movie?
Yes.
So the bad guy in that one, who was played by Clancy Brown,
And he
he
scared me.
yeah, now he was called the Kurgan.
And not the Surgeon?
Exactly. Well, not only that, but the Kurgans was another name or word for the Cimmerians. So Conan and the Kurgan from the Highlander movie were probably buddies. They probably went to school together.
Aw,
Did you know
ain't
that?
that sweet? That's special.
So we've got, the Kurgan probably pulls out his yearbook and he goes, "Oh, there's my high school buddy Conan. But don't call him Conan the Cimmerian or I'll cut your head off." So, in any case, do you get the sense for how rough and tumble the Kurgans and the Cimmerians were? They were actually really bad. They were kind of the bad boys of antiquity for a while.
Well, the thing is that when you bring up bad boys of history, what is the group of people who invaded England, almost like the King Arthur thingy?
Oh,
Um,
the Saxons.
yeah. And if, you look back into their history, yeah, they were conquering and very um aggressive, but they were also very innovative and they had a lot of technology advancements for their era, for the things that they did, like the boats that they made, the tools that they had, and even the weapons that they utilized were more advanced than the steel swords that were thrown against them. And they were able to really, that's why they were able to dominate so much because of that.
Right. That's
So
true.
even though, they were the bad boys of history, they were actually very innovative while being the bad boy. Ha, smart and aggressive. Every woman's dream right there. Hmm.
Well, it's interesting that you mention that because there is one other possible connection, and I say possible because it's not it's not proved beyond a reasonable doubt, but it's at least interesting. One other word besides Cimmerian or Crimean or Kurgan to relate to these people, one other word from antiquity is Gorgon. And so
Really?
if you remember if you remember your Greek mythology, there were the Gorgons,
Yeah.
and it seems like it's at least possible that the Gorgons might have been compatriots with these Kurgans or these Cimmerians. And so the Gorgon that everybody's familiar with from Greek mythology is Medusa.
Right.
And so um, Medusa is known for the snakes in the hair kind of thing.
Yep.
But what's her backstory is that she was actually born a beautiful woman, but then she had a love affair with Poseidon, the Greek god, and for some reason the other female goddesses got upset with her for that, which is weird because none of them wanted to have an affair with Poseidon, but they didn't want her to have an affair with Poseidon, which is very mother-in-lawish kind of thing going on here. But
Yeah.
so as a punishment for that, they gave her the hair of snakes, And, I wonder how much of that hair of snakes was just really sort of Medusa being catty and aggressive in that female tyrannical sort of way, just turning people to stone with her fiery gaze and um, haughty contempt, versus actually turning them to stone for real with actual snakes in her hair. I mean, I wasn't there. I don't know. Maybe she had access to something I'm not familiar with, but isn't that interesting?
Yeah, because I mean, if you think about it, women who were strong-willed or were able to have any kind of power were looked down upon and given a bad rap. And I think that probably could go along the line for Medusa. She was probably a very strong-willed, forceful woman who, if you came upon her, she was going to bring you down to your knees. And so men had to give a symbol to that and make it that way because that wasn't a common for women to be, you weren't allowed to have that strength.
Right. So we've got three examples of people from this Crimean region in antiquity. We've got Conan, we've got the Kurgan from Highlander, and then we've got Medusa. So in any case, you sort of get a sense for how the Greeks and the people of the Anatolian region in Turkey and also down in the Iranian section seem, how they sort of seemed to feel about what it was like to hang out with the barbarians, the Cimmerians.
Right.
So they were very rough and tumble.
Very interesting. Well, I mean, any kind of history, and if you look back to ancient times and the stories that they tell, and we know as common interests today, you know it's always is based in some sort of truth and had been changed to make it more interesting or to adapt and understand better. And so I really think that, the strong willed barbarians, and they were rough and tumble and killers and bad boys, were probably given this because they were able to do more. And so they had to place a name on them. They can't be good people if they do this. You know what I mean?
Right.
Or they could have actually been just super, super mean. And it's hard to tell, what is the most accurate way for the explanation in this.
Well,
It's
I've
in
got one final connection here that I don't know if this will make sense or not, but um, so this Crimean region, has this bad boy history to it from antiquity. However, in the Crimean region of today, it's really interesting because some of the best players in the world of chess are from the Crimean region, if you can believe it.
Oh, that's cool.
So it turns out that they're just as ruthlessly aggressive and barbaric in their chess playing as they were back in the day when Conan was running around with his sword chopping everybody's head off and basically getting everybody's attention.
That's funny. That's kind of cool. That's a nice little piece of information.
So that was my research that I was working on.